Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Most Reverend Bishop Richard Umbers. I'd like to invite him to the next proceedings tonight.
So identifying as, especially these days, as a Catholic is not easy. Anyone who sort of raises their hand and says, I'm a Catholic, or maybe shows off their scapula or cross around their neck, is going to get questions. So, you who are Catholic, why is it that? And then you get a barrage of questions. From everything about, why does the Pope wear a white hat? Does he have 666 on the top of his head? Is it all, the most absurd questions, and sometimes pretty good ones as well. Why would God allow a hurricane to go through the Bahamas? All these sorts of things. People want to know about that. And it's always been the case that people will ask questions, but I think more so now. In the past, it was kind of the case you can be a bit of a tribal Catholic. Well, we're just Catholic. The Jehovah's Witness would come to the door and you'd dangle your rosary beads out the front and go, we're Catholic, and sort of close the door. But now, it's a very conscious decision to go to Mass. It's a very conscious decision even to say, yeah, I'm a Catholic. So many young people now, in the census write, no religion. 40%. 40% of our youth write, I don't pertain to any particular religion. And many of them would probably even go to Catholic schools. So, the need to explain the hope that we have within us falls on almost any person who makes that conscious choice to say, yes, I am a Catholic. And there's a grand desire for a lot of people to know more, not only because when you believe you want to understand more, but also in a very practical way to be able to have a bit of defense. You know it's true, you know that it works for you, but you want to be able to give a convincing explanation. When I was a teenager growing up, that would often take the form of some of my friends who were cradle Catholics and happy in their faith. And, the priest knows his stuff. If I've got a question, I'll ask the priest, but, I just pop along. And they'd get a Protestant girlfriend. And, of course, in the general run of things, if someone stopped you along the way and said, do you know that God loves you? And you say, yes, thanks very much. Do you know that Jesus loves you? Yes, thanks very much. Have you been born again? Bye, thank you. You just keep on walking. But when a fellow has a girlfriend who's asking him those questions, he can't run away. And the difficulty would be they'd ask questions that they couldn't answer. Why is it that you think the Pope is infallible? How come you worship Mary? All those sorts of typical questions. And they go, look, I know that you Protestants are wrong. I know that we've got the truth, but I can't really explain it. I was not paying attention in religion class. So we used to read books, Carl Keating was a famous one, religion, was it Catholicism and Fundamentalism, this big book, and another one by even Father Paul Stenhouse, a great little cartoon book explaining all those sorts of challenges. And I know my friends and myself, we would read those things and, gobble them up back in the day. But what about now? People don't have access maybe quite so much to that sort of information. That people don't read as readily. But there is the opportunity of listening to a talk in person to get some of those sorts of answers. And here in Sydney, the experience is that any kind of talk that you would put on around the city, and there's all sorts of gifted speakers. We've got Robert Haddad, Jeremy Bell with the Center Sapientia, some flyers at the back. You can look there if you want to learn more about philosophy. Dr. Robert Tilley, of course, phenomenal everywhere. But anywhere you go where there's a talk like that, you'll get 20 to 30 people. How do you reach more than 20 to 30 people? Through the sorts of resources that Parousia Media makes so widely available, with the kinds of discussions and talks that are very helpful in explaining the reasons for your hope. Now, I've been many times, and I think some of you here have also been to a little retreat place to the south of Sydney called Bargo. And when you run a retreat, It's always a big thing. What do you do at meal times? You know, because you're supposed to be keeping a certain degree of silence. So people read from a book, but you know, the quality of the reading, the volume of the reading is different. And now what people do is they get a Lighthouse production CD and sort of, you know, slip it into the CD player, and they play that during the meals. And sometimes it's wonderful, you know, that Under the Shadow of His Wings. I mean, it's an incredible true story of a Franciscan priest who was in the German army during the Second World War. And so, you know, you're gripping, waiting for the next, you know, installment. But other times with something like Lighthouse Productions, it stands to reason. You know, it's made in the United States, and the speakers are from the United States, and sometimes it's the kind of, you know, woo-hoo from the United States. You need a more Aussie flavour. If you're to reach people in their everyday situations. And so there's a real need. How do you combine the fact that if you go around Sydney, there's only 30 people at a talk, or if you try to put something on a CD player or MP3 or whatever, it's going to be an American production. Wonderful things, the content is great, but for an American audience. And I think that's where Parousia Media steps in, where they're able to capture the sorts of talks that are going on around the city and adapt that to an Aussie audience. You know, they capture that and they're able to put for people in podcast form, or, you know, in CD form, or in books, activities, opportunities for a lot of people, a lot of parishioners, a lot of people who have a certain thirst for adult education, to be able to give a convincing answer to people when you're challenged. And that's why it's so worthwhile that we're able to cooperate in these ways. I know in the Archdiocese of Sydney, in our own communications area, we have XT3, we have a lot of resources. There are other agencies as well around the place. And what we need to do, we need to get together more often, we need to share, we need to form these sorts of associations where we can discuss initiatives that are being taken, so that there's a lot of cross-pollination available and possible. Social media reaches people. Facebook is a really incredible tool for reaching so many people, especially lurkers. Short little videos that you can put up on Facebook, short little clips that you can share, memes, if you can come up with them. Yeah. And then a link to Parousia Media, or to XT3. I'm going to throw XT3 in here, but or to other websites that, you know, where if you want to know more, here's where you can look. That's something all of us can do. And as we read books ourselves, as we listen to those talks ourselves, of course we share them with other people, the people around us. What are you up to? What do you listen to? I got this, you know, a little inspirational quote, whatever it was that meant something to ourselves. Put that in there. In that way, you know, we need to be ambitious to reach a lot of people in Sydney, a lot of our friends. We need that ambition to go beyond the 30 people. We need to reach every parish. We need to reach a lot of people who are not even in the parish. Because for the advance, or at the very least for the defence of our faith in this country, where the 40% of the young people, including in our schools, I don't think there's any big difference there, who are saying, I don't associate myself with any particular religion. We are in the midst of a tremendous crisis. In some ways it's been going on for centuries, but it's accelerating in our own days. There's still time. We can arrest something of that momentum towards secularization if we learn how to absorb ourselves, but also to share with others what was meaningful to us, making these wonderful tools available to other people, because they've got questions and they need the answers, and there's so much which is plentiful there. There will be a difference made if we are able to coordinate and to really think in an ambitious way about expanding these sorts of projects. The internet makes that possible for us. Social media has to be our friend. So I would encourage all of you, I know that you've probably already broken the bank buying some of those books, maybe some of them will never get read, they look nice and shiny. But at least of sharing with people, not just anything, it has to mean something to you. It has to be something that because there's nothing worse than recommending a book that you think, oh, I'm sure this will be good for you, and you haven't read it yourself. It could be awful, and then that's the end of it. No, it has to be something that we've looked at ourselves. But really in that way, there's still a lot to be done. We have a tremendous network with our parishes, a tremendous distribution, if we're able to reach people. And they are interested, and they are hungry for that. So I would encourage all of you through Facebook, Twitter, if that's your thing. I know it's mine, but it's not for everyone. And word of mouth. When people just see what you're doing, what are you listening? In some ways, maybe even you want to hide some of that stuff. What are you looking at, Mum? No, don't worry about it. You don't want to know about it. Hide the book. Then they'll go looking for it. That's how it works normally. but see what you can do there. Because there is an urgent need, a really urgent need to hold the faith and to be able to share, really, at a critical time, what it is to know the Blessed Trinity, to understand that we are loved by God the Father. Everybody needs to know that. And I think through our promotion of Parousia and other means, we're able to get that message across. Thank you.